Right now, somewhere over the Atlantic, two passenger jets are flying toward each other at a combined speed of over 1,100 miles per hour. That's faster than the speed of sound. Nearly 1.5 times faster, actually. And the only thing keeping them from meeting is a computer system that most passengers have never heard of. A system that one crew, over a German lake in 2002, chose to overrule. Here's what most people don't think about when they fly. The aluminum skin of the fuselage, the wall between you and 35,000 feet of nothing, is roughly 2 millimeters thick, about the thickness of a nickel. Not even 3 credit cards stacked together. That shell is built to handle air pressure, turbulence, and fatigue from thousands of landing cycles. What it's not built to handle is another aircraft hitting it at cruise speed. And cruise speed for a commercial jet is around 560 miles per hour. So if two of them are heading toward each other, you're looking at a closing speed north of 1,100 miles per hour. At that velocity, the kinetic energy doesn't just cause damage, it causes instant disintegration. Wings shear off, fuselages rip open, fuel tanks rupture and ignite. The forces involved are so far beyond what the human body can survive that the impact itself lasts less than a fraction of a second. This isn't a fender bender in the sky. It's physics operating at a scale your brain literally cannot process in real time. And yet, it has happened. More than once. And the reasons it happened will make you question how safe the sky above you really is. Here's the thing nobody tells you about mid-air collisions. The physics are almost irrelevant, because by the time two planes actually touch, every human system designed to prevent it has already failed. Let's go back to a time when the sky was basically the Wild West. June 30th, 1956. Two airliners take off from Los Angeles International Airport, 3 minutes apart. A TWA Super Constellation heading for Kansas City. A United Airlines DC-7 heading for Chicago. Their flight paths are planned to cross near the Grand Canyon. Here's the problem. Once those planes left controlled airspace, pilots were on their own. No radar tracking them, no system keeping them apart. Just a principle called see and avoid. Look out the window, don't hit anything. Both planes ended up at 21,000 feet, probably rerouting around thunderstorms, possibly giving passengers a better view of the canyon. At 10:31 that morning, they collided. The DC-7's propellers sliced into the Constellation's fuselage. The Constellation lost its tail and plunged nose first into the canyon. The DC-7 spiraled into a cliff face a mile away. 128 people. Gone. No survivors. At the time, it was the deadliest air disaster in history, and it exposed something terrifying. The United States had almost no real system for keeping planes apart in the sky. Think about that for a second. Between 1948 and 1955, there had been 127 mid-air collisions in U.S. airspace alone. 30 of them involved commercial airliners. The sky was unregulated chaos. That Grand Canyon disaster became the catalyst. Public outrage forced Congress to act. In 1958, President Eisenhower signed the Federal Aviation Act, creating the Federal Aviation Agency, what we now know as the FAA. For the first time, a single agency had complete authority over American airspace, civilian and military. Radar-based air traffic control rolled out nationwide. Pilots could no longer just freelance across the sky. The modern system of controlled airways, altitude assignments, and mandatory communication was born. One crash over the Grand Canyon literally built the safety architecture you rely on every single time you fly. But even the FAA and air traffic control aren't enough. Controllers are human. They get tired. They get distracted. They make mistakes. So in the decades after the Grand Canyon crash, engineers built a backup system, a last line of defense. It's called TCAS, the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, and it might be the most important piece of technology on any airplane you've ever been on. Think of TCAS as an invisible bodyguard. It constantly pings the transponders of every aircraft nearby and builds a three-dimensional map of who's around you. Range, altitude, direction, speed, all updated in real time. If another plane gets too close, TCAS issues a traffic advisory. That's the yellow circle on the pilot's display. It's saying, "Heads up, someone's nearby." But if that plane keeps closing in, and a collision looks likely within about 25 seconds, TCAS escalates to a resolution advisory. That's the red square. And it doesn't just warn you, it tells you exactly what to do. Climb, descend, now. Here's the genius part. When two planes both have TCAS, the systems talk to each other. One plane gets told to climb, the other gets told to descend. They coordinate automatically, no human negotiation needed. It's like two strangers approaching each other in a hallway. Except instead of that awkward side-to-side shuffle, a computer instantly decides who goes which way. TCAS has been mandatory on large commercial aircraft in the US since 1993 and in Europe since 2000. It has prevented countless collisions that passengers never even knew were possible. But TCAS has one critical weakness. It only works if pilots actually follow it. July 1st, 2002, just before midnight over southern Germany. Bashkirian Airlines Flight 2937, a Tupolev Tu-154, is heading from Moscow to Barcelona. On board, 60 passengers and 9 crew. 45 of those passengers are schoolchildren from the Russian city of Ufa on a UNESCO-organized trip to the coast of Spain. DHL Flight 611, a Boeing 757 cargo jet, is flying from Bergamo, Italy to Brussels. 2 pilots, no passengers, just freight. Both aircraft are cruising at 36,000 feet, same altitude, converging paths, and there is exactly one air traffic controller watching this sector. His name is Peter Nielsen. He's working alone at the SkyGuide Control Center in Zurich because his colleague is on break. One of his radar systems is down for maintenance, and he's distracted, trying to guide a delayed aircraft into Friedrichshafen Airport. Nielsen spots the conflict too late. He contacts the Russian crew with about 43 seconds to spare and tells them to descend to 35,000 feet. At the same time, TCAS activates on both aircraft. The system tells the Russian crew to climb. It tells the DHL crew to descend. Complementary maneuvers. If both crews follow TCAS, the planes separate. Crisis averted. The DHL pilots follow their TCAS. They descend. But the Russian crew faces a conflict. Their controller just told them to descend. Their TCAS is telling them to climb. In Russian aviation training at the time, pilots were taught that the air traffic controller's word was the highest authority. TCAS was seen as a backup tool, not the final word. The crew's own operating manual contained contradictory sections. One chapter said, "Follow TCAS." Another said, "Follow ATC." They follow the controller. They descend. Now both planes are descending into each other. 8 seconds before impact, the Russian crew finally spots the DHL aircraft through their cockpit window. For 6 agonizing seconds, the reality sets in. 2 seconds before impact, they try to climb. But it's too late. The Boeing 757's vertical stabilizer slices through the Tupolev's fuselage just forward of the wings. Both aircraft lose control instantly. They crash into the farmland and forests north of Überlingen, near Lake Constance. 71 people dead, including 45 children who were on their way to a beach vacation. Überlingen changed everything. In 2003, the International Civil Aviation Organization issued a global directive. If TCAS and air traffic control give conflicting instructions, you follow TCAS, period. No ambiguity, no judgment call. The machine overrides the human. And after the January 2025 Midair collision over the Potomac River near Washington, D.C., where a regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter killed 67 people, investigators found that neither aircraft had collision avoidance technology capable of working effectively at low altitude. The NTSB recommended, for the first time, that the next-generation system called ACAS-X be mandated across commercial and military aviation. ACAS-X uses probability modeling and machine learning-derived logic instead of the rigid rules TCAS relies on. It can evaluate hundreds of scenarios in real time and choose the safest one. The FAA approved it in 2020, but as of right now, it's still not mandatory. So the next time you're on a plane and the ride is smooth and the sky looks peaceful, just know, somewhere in that cockpit, an invisible system is running constant calculations, pinging every aircraft around you, ready to override everything if the math says you're in danger. It's the reason midair collisions went from 127 in 7 years to almost unheard of. And every upgrade to that system was paid for in lives. Aviation doesn't get safer because someone has a good idea. It gets safer because something terrible happens and we decide never again. The question is how many times we have to learn that lesson before we stop waiting for the tragedy. Speaking of things you didn't know were protecting you, have you ever heard a weird chime or seen a brief flash on a cockpit display during a flight and wondered what it was? Drop your weirdest in-flight moment in the comments. I'll tell you what actually happened.